Welcome to our Savvy series. I'm Catherine Magana here with Rachel Ivanovich, and today we're going to have a discussion on life by design, aligning wealth with purpose in the new year. And yes, we're not in the new year yet, but we definitely have been thinking about it and getting in that mindset. And so we wanted to continue that conversation. And so I know we do a lot of different workshops and education on lifestyle by design and retirement by design. And, today we're going to talk about life by design and what really truly matters to you as you're kind of ending at the end of the year and kind of focusing on next year. And so we think this is a good time to really start thinking about what are your goals going to be for next year, and what kind of word are you going to have for next year? And
I already got mine.
I have my word. I'm still working on my goals. And so one of the things throughout the year that come up or to think about are family, travel, philanthropy, career, and legacy. And so we thought we'd spend some time with you today and really dig in and what's important to you. And so what we find is a lot of times for most women, it's, we're busy, we're running families, businesses, and so many different things going on. And it's a lot of times, family and relationships are really important. And I know for myself, that was one of my core values was family. And it's, looking at what type of, if it is family, what type of support do they need for next year, or what are there aging parents, and kind of tying in maybe financially some of your core values to your financial plan.
I think it's really important to be intentional and start out the year with what is most important to you. And my coach is always having me put my most important things in my calendar so that I am leading my life by design versus putting out fires constantly. And so I think, a life by design approach can ask, several questions. And you just mentioned about families, maybe, what kind of support do they need? Yeah. And so being really intentional and, what are you talking about? Are you talking about college tuition? Are you talking about maybe helping your children with their first home? Helping aging parents with finances, but it all starts with that being really intentional about what is most important to you.
And then perhaps it's experiences. Maybe it's things that you want to do with your family this year. Are there some travel plans or things that you want to do as a family? And
so we set travel goals already.
Yes.
Yeah, I said I want to do one short trip every quarter, so kind of like a long weekend.
Yeah.
And picking, let's go to the mountains for one trip, and let's go to the beach for one trip. But being really intentional about it and already, picking the weekends in ahead of time and making the budget for it. Yeah. And, finding the people in the family that we're going to include for that trip. Versus
and giving them a chance to plan, too.
To plan and save for it so that we all can, have enough money and, be intentional with our money. And so we're thinking, let's see, what were you saying? Family cruise to Mexico.
Oh, there you go. Nice. I was just on a cruise to Mexico. It's actually,
well, you inspired me.
There you go. Yeah, it's actually there's a lot to do with the family. I'm sure that you guys
and that's what I was thinking, is that there's something for everyone, and it'll be a really good time. But by planning it ahead and making it, okay, this is what the budget's going to be, and this is how much we have to save, so you can actually take the trip, and the trip's already paid for.
So what we find is travel as a life kind of style or part of your overall plan. And often we hear, some women say, "Oh, I'll go sometime, or when things slow down," and the reality is
when retirement starts.
Yeah, or I'm going to do it later. But the reality is you should enjoy life and experiences now. And it also, when you take time away, it gives you a chance to reflect, but also kind of see, okay, what areas in your business or life maybe need, are there any holes that need to be looked at?
Are there gaps? Yeah, and it also, strengthens family bonds. You have to spend the time together, and like you said, I'll go when things slow down, but my husband always says
it's never going to slow down.
Someday, well, he says someday's not on the calendar, because I always say, well, someday we'll do that, and so. No, let's put it in the calendar and make it happen. And like you said, I think it does rewire your perspective. Taking that step back from everything, not checking email all day long, it really gives you the time to reflect and think about, okay, what is most important to me and what do I want to do for the future?
Well, and I realize everyone's at a different place in their careers and lives, and and obviously what's important. But I do feel, after myself doing a little more traveling than I usually do this last year, that I really have enjoyed it, and it's
What, you don't want to work all the
right?
time?
No, I love working. That's the hard part. Is I really enjoy
I do
working.
too.
That's the hard part. But it's also when you come back, it
Yeah.
can definitely be the work didn't go away.
Yeah,
So,
that is for sure. It's been a fun
but
week.
I definitely feel that having those experiences and memories, and I think that's part of life, and enjoying life is, it's part of, of why we do the things that we do. And
But I think
purpose.
being strategic with your travel is key, which is, one of the reasons why I was like, okay, we're going to do one small trip a quarter, and we're going to do 2 bigger trips. But it doesn't have to be, this
A big elaborate thing.
thing. What if it's, let's go to Santa Barbara for the weekend, or Shell Beach, which is by San Luis Obispo, where you went to school.
Yes,
Yeah,
I love it.
Avila.
Okay,
Right?
I love it up there.
So
yeah.
pretty there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So another thing that comes up is perhaps you want to give, and there's some ways that you can do that with time and money. And I know we've done a lot of conversations on that, but that potentially could be, strategic giving and figuring out for the year what does this look like, and how does, because is it time, or is it money, or both?
I think being philanthropic with purpose is important, and staying in sequence. So, if you're barely getting by, you don't want to be, giving away a lot of money. And this is the time of year where you go to the grocery store and they're like, would you like to do a hunger bag? And then you go somewhere else. Oh, can you donate for this? So I think really having a plan for your giving is really important, because generosity it makes everybody feel good.
Yes.
However, make sure you can get hit up from everybody. I think we've been asked to donate and sponsor.
A lot. I know.
And so
we want to say yes to everyone, but
Yes.
unfortunately we can't. But we do the best we can. But I know even on a personal level, there are some things that I do on an annual basis, and I do expand that occasionally. And so it is something that I enjoy doing.
I think we both really like to give.
And then also I do give of time too, we give of time in the community. But there's also a lot. I know we had a segment on the charitable giving in the past, but
Yes.
there's ways that if you are, depending on your wealth and where you're at, and your tax situation, there are other ways that you can give. There's donor advised funds,
which we've done recently
Yes.
for a couple of clients, and then of course the qualified charitable distributions, which we've talked about
yes,
in
But
previous
I think,
podcasts.
yeah, which is great. I mean, I love
Yeah.
that clients are actually doing that, and it's something that they realize they can do.
Yes.
So it's a huge tax savings there, where you basically if you have to take a requirement of distribution
from your IRAs,
then you can give to the charities, and then it doesn't get included as your
as part of your income. Yeah. Or gifting appreciated assets to charities is always a great strategy. And here we are, right at the end of the year, and you may want to consider doing that. You can gift stock, and the charity will have the benefit of the appreciation, and they don't have to pay tax on it because they're a nonprofit organization, and you don't either. So
it's a win-win.
it's a win-win.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then another thing that potentially may come up for you is, where are you at in your career? What options are available to you? Or are you happy with your career and where you're at? Or so I think it is important to look at, am I in the profession that I enjoy, or is there room for improvement, or are you just happy with where you're at? And I think there's obviously some education goals that could come into play as well. And then we look at kind of legacy. When I know as we're approaching the end of the year, it's always important to look at your estate plan and, is everything in order? And sometimes it's what is the legacy that you're leaving for your family? And you want to make sure everything's in order, so that you don't leave it for your family to scramble and not know. And obviously there's tax consequences if you don't plan properly.
And that's definitely part of the life by design planning is, who is the wealth meant to serve? Mm-hmm. What values are part of it? And, what message is the money sending when you're no longer there? I mean, you want to plan ahead so that people don't have to make those decisions for you.
Well, and if you don't have a plan, and then once again, if things aren't titled properly, there could be probate, or maybe the family members don't know, maybe you wanted things a certain way for them, and they are scrambling, trying to figure out what to do.
And you don't want to be doing it when you're sick.
Yeah.
You want to be doing it when you're healthy, so you can actually have those conversations that matter.
Yeah. And, I had my sister, unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago, and she ended up not having everything in order. But when she didn't know she was going to get sick. And so she was actually, the night before she was going in for this major surgery, we were getting things notarized and scrambling, and just so we would have power of attorney for her health. At that time, she actually ended up recovering and had a couple of years more with us. But there was some other planning still along the way that needed to get done, and some things did get done, which is great. But it was challenging, especially when you're
really stressful.
when you're not feeling well. So it is, like you said, when you're healthy and everything's wonderful, you probably, if you can, make sure your affairs are in order, so you don't have any questions, and it's it's not stressful. And so we definitely feel like this is a good time to start really thinking about what's important to you for next year, your goals, and I know we're at the end of the year, you're going to be spending some time with family and friends, but I definitely feel this is the perfect time to start aligning for next year and kind of figuring out what's most important to you, and then also maybe revisiting what were your goals from this last year. Were there some things that you didn't do or you did do, and reflect on what's working and what's not. And then obviously, things change. I mean, obviously this is every year is a new year, and so you might be at a different place financially, emotionally, and we're once again, we're here to help you with a financial plan, some tax planning, and we also do a lot of values and goals.
And we want to make sure your money is currently aligned with your values, so that, and like you said, review your goals. What did you get done, and why did you get those done? Versus what did you not get done, and maybe it's a timing issue, or maybe it's a value issue. Like it's not you set a goal and it's not aligned with what's most important to you, so that you didn't get done. So, and
then similar, like the last Savvy series we did, we talked about also thinking bigger and just sometimes not limiting yourself, and really kind of giving yourself that clean slate, and really thinking.
There are a lot of great books out there about it. Think big for next year.
Exactly. So that concludes today's Savvy series. We want to thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to have a complimentary strategy session with us, you can reach us at 760-692-5700. And we want to thank you for getting savvy today with us about your finances. And remember to savvy up. Please stay tuned for important disclosures. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or any specific security. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results, and the indices referenced for comparison are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. As always, please remember investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Please seek advice from a licensed professional. Savvy Woman Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor with the SEC.